to the point of being enrolled at OSU.
Well, thanks for joining with us, Rick. So my name is Erin Bird. I am the Associate Director of Transfer Pathways and Success at OSU. As Rick works with the prospective transfer students, my work kind of kicks in after they get to OSU. So not only supporting transfer students, but students with transfer credits, and really making sure that we are understanding those student populations and applying credits in the best way possible, the maximum way possible to their degree requirements. And I sit currently on the core team for our core education, our new general education implementation team. And I also sit with Rick as well on the organizational change management, which we are responsible for communicating internally at OSU with our students, advisors, and faculty, but then also externally. So we appreciate very much your invitation to come and share a little bit about our process to implement our new curriculum, core education. And Kristen Benson, my colleague, will be co-presenting with me. Kristen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Benson. I'm the Deputy University Registrar here at OSU. And like Erin, I also sit on the Core Ed core team, and then I head up the operations subcommittee. So this is everything process and technology related to implementation, from the curriculum management system to get courses approved, to evaluating and updating articulation tables for Core Ed, the degree audit, and then both of our subcommittees are working together this year to get web pages, websites, and transfer tools updated so that they serve both back core students, but then also our new core education students.
Second disclaimer that you'll hear from us is that Kristen and I we've given this roadshow a number of times. We usually have 90 minutes. And so we are going to do our best to speed talk our way, condense the content into really applicable information for you all. But at any point in time, this is really informal. And so feel free to use the chat or just ask questions as we go through. We really want to make sure that we are answering your questions, maybe even before you have them. But if we don't answer them, feel free to just ask us for clarification and whatever else that you need. So what we'll do today is we'll talk a little bit real briefly about why we are actually changing our gen ed. So what was the catalyst to move away from back core? Kristen will go into the nitty gritty details of the curriculum that is in core education, so the name of our new gen ed program. I'll provide slight process information about where we are. It goes live in summer of 25. So little less than a year from now, our students will be registering for core education courses. It's going to be a smooth, seamless process. It's going to go great. And we are not panicked in the least to get there, make sure that we're all on the same page. And then we'll go into some details on how we can be better partners in sharing our students and making sure that we have information to you all to support your students in figuring out how it works at OSU. And if we didn't answer all of your questions, hopefully we'll have plenty of time at the end for that. So why are we actually changing back core? So the first reason is that we haven't changed it. We haven't really changed it since it was established back in the 90s. But what has changed is the demographics of our university. So we're seeing more and more students enter OSU, more and more transfer students enter OSU, and more students with transfer credits entering OSU. We've also seen the structure of OSU change since we created back core. So we've expanded in Bend, so we have the Cascades campus over there, but we've also expanded globally through our online program, eCampus. And so when the back core was created back in the 90s, it was really situated for a certain student population who came to Corvallis to attend in person, and that curriculum wasn't really nimble or adaptive in meeting the needs of our 21st century learners. So there was this static curriculum. Our university was changing, and the way that we kind of integrated change into our static curriculum was by adding more courses. And so we were seeing what we were calling bloat. We had more courses added to each category and more credits added to each course in each category. So our back core was just kind of growing. It was growing as a larger part of a student's academic program, their curriculum and their major. It was just kind of getting bigger and bigger, taking up more and more space. And there was more and more courses. And so students were getting a little overwhelmed with the number of choices. And faculty were using back core kind of a way to introduce majors rather than the purpose of Gen Ed, which is this breadth and depth of knowledge that students should have access to generally across the university. And so all of this came together with this loss of identity, right? A loss of identity of what is backcore, what is the purpose of Gen Ed from our faculty perspective. But then when you're working with students, I was an advisor when I first started at OSU. You would have a conversation talking about curriculum, their major requirements, and you would say backcore. And it always came with a disclaimer, you know, your general education. And so students would get frustrated, like, why do I have to take it? I don't see the connection of this course to my major or what I want to do. And there's just a lot of frustration. And it started to turn into more of a checkbox complete. Students just have to get through it to get to the stuff they wanted to do. So all of this kind of combined together to a call to action. And our university administration, through our last strategic plan, said, now's the time. Let's fix it. Let's look at it. Let's re-envision what Gen Ed looks like at OSU. So we did. And as we worked through the process, there are a couple things that we kept grounded in our work. The first one is that we centered it on students. You get a lot of folks in the room, lots of opinions get shared. It become a little impassioned at times. And so anytime it came, you know, we got to a tension point, we always centered it. What do our students need, our current students and our future students? Connected to that, it was also focused on transfer student outcomes. There's a lot of mandates across the state to improve transferability of credits and to improve transfer outcomes. And so we really want to be mindful of what those are and how can we purposely embed them into our curriculum. So we wanted it centered around students, focused on transfer students' outcomes. We looked external as well and said, what are the best of the best doing? How can we incorporate some of those really, really innovative practices that are involved in Gen Ed elsewhere into our curriculum at OSU? All of this also came with the caveat that we needed to condense it. We wanted it to be smaller credits. We wanted it to be more portable and packageable for students. And so there's more spaces for our students to take advantage of the high impact practices that we know are really vital for persistence and retention and graduation. So study abroad and research. We also wanted to create more space for there to be electives so that transfer credits have a purpose towards a student's requirements for graduation, even if it doesn't come over as a direct major requirement. We wanted more elective space. We had signature elements of OSU that are really innovative and cool that are going on. Our faculty are involved in so many different research through our land, sun, sea, and space grant designations. We wanted to take some of that knowledge from our faculty that are improving and throwing out into the universe and pull it back into an accessible way for our students. We also were given the opportunity to say, don't let the budget determine what curriculum you make. Create your curriculum and then we'll map the budget onto it.
Yeah,
So,
and it never gets reported on.
a lot of really cool things going on. We had a lot of voices. Lots of folks participated. We had students involved in the process from early on. Academic advisors clearly are really integral to the conversation. They understand student experience within curriculum and can voice that in a way that students and faculty might not be able to. Obviously, faculty are there. We had some components that we wanted to make sure were really, the voices that we wanted to make sure were really evident. Our assessment team, we wanted career readiness involved. So we needed the Career Development Center to talk through our NACE competencies. And we wanted to be mindful of the legislation around transfer and how we are intentionally supporting those students. Faculty Senate, our administration, budgets, lots of folks, lots of people over a long time. It wasn't an overnight process. So we began by asking questions. We took feedback. We developed a couple different models. We merged that into one final model and that backcore reform committee took it everywhere and asked for more feedback. All of those 700 participants from industry partners, from community colleges, from internal folks. And we said, what's working? What are we missing? How can we improve it? That was then finalized in 2022, and that's when we approved the curriculum, the structure of the curriculum, and since then we have been hard at work on actually implementing what we approved. So 22 feels like yesterday and about 15 years ago, all at the same time, because it's just been a ton of work to get us to where we are. So a lot of background to get us into, oh, that's the wrong button. That's okay. What is core education? And Kristen's going to get into the nitty gritty of what content and what curriculum is in our new program.
Great, thanks, Erin. So OSU's new general education curriculum, Core Ed, is comprised both a foundational core and a signature core. So we're going to start by talking about the foundational core. And this is it. It is, these categories are all situated at the lower division. And as you can see on that right-hand column, Meet CTM, that is the core transfer map. So our faculty intentionally took the categorical outcomes from Oregon's core transfer map, also the AAOT and ASOT outcomes, and made sure to embed or map the lower division curriculum to those outcomes. So let's go ahead and walk through each category. The first is writing foundations. So this is writing 121Z, pretty straightforward. Then students will complete 2 arts and humanities courses. One can be a general focus, and the second one is expected to be a global focus. And so these are courses that compare 2 or more geographical areas, and those areas are expected to be outside of a Western paradigm. So bypassing Western Europe, US, Canada, Australia, and focusing more on analysis of historically non-dominant cultures. Students then pick up a math course. They will complete a communication, media, and society course. And these courses were written to both the oral communication outcomes from the AAOT and then also social science outcomes. So this is the first of 2 social science courses they'll take. They pick up a second social science course. Then there's 2 scientific inquiry courses. These are laboratory courses in the physical and natural sciences. And then a foundational course introducing them to concepts around difference, power, and oppression. And this is the first time you'll hear Erin and I say today kind of a mantra, which is we are encouraging community colleges to help their students complete the core transfer map. And that's because for some of the community colleges, there's some additional guarantees that a completed core transfer map will give students because at OSU, we're not going to unpack that body of work. And so there's 4 possible ways that there could be a little bonus. The first is that global focus in arts and humanities is not inherent in the core transfer map. So if a student's completed a CTM, we are not going to be looking specifically for a globally focused course. The second is for any of the community colleges that have on their approved math lists discipline-specific statistics courses. If we do a course by course, those are not going to come over and satisfy OSU's quantitative literacy. But if the student completes the full CTM, then it would if that was approved at their community college. Same with communication, media, and society. Within the CTM, this could end up just being one of the 2 social science courses. We're not going to be specifically looking for those oral communication outcomes if the students completed a full CTM. And then finally, for scientific inquiry, some of the CCs have computer science courses that are approved for the science distribution lists, or they might have non-laboratory courses. And if a student had completed one of those on their way to fulfilling the core transfer map, again, we're not going to unpack that and pick that apart. They're simply going to have all 8 of those first categories fulfilled by the CTM. If the student happens to take an additional 9th course that fulfills difference, power, and oppression, they would get that fulfilled, as do any students who complete the AAOT or the ASOT, because through legislation, that will fulfill all lower division general education at the 4-year publics. So that is one other thing is just when we're talking about transfer, we're not beholden to these credit values or credit ranges that are in that credits column. That's really the requirements that OSU faculty have been given, where we have common course numbers that are aligned, let's say at 4 credits versus 3 credits. OSU is going to be offering those as 4 credits as well. And, you know, with transfer credit, especially from a semester school, we're going to have credit values that are higher than these ranges here. So don't worry about those. Any questions about the foundational core? This was really created. Oh, go ahead. Nope. This was really created to be a portable lower division body of work that can easily transfer both into OSU, but then out of OSU for students who might start with us and realize OSU is not the right place for them. They might be looking to go to another 4-year or to a community college, and we just wanted this body of work to transfer as seamlessly as possible. Okay, let's talk about the signature core then. So then students will complete a signature core that for transfer students is completely situated at the upper division. So that first category there, transitions, this is a course that students will take in their first term at OSU. And for transfer students, the content of their course, which is a 300 level course, isn't going to have as much, welcome to being a college student for the first time. This is what you need to know that our first year students will take, but there will be some refreshers of some of those concepts, a lot of how to be successful at OSU and an introduction to various resources. There's also modules on health and fitness with a focus specifically on mental health. So we wanted to be able to get them some of that important content. There's also the first of 3 career integration touch points that they will do in transitions. So their first introduction at OSU to really academic and career planning. And then, like I said, this is a 300 level course, and the course is restricted only to transfer students, which means they really get to start building that transfer community and early on start social integration, which is so important for persistence and completion. Unlike many kind of first year seminars where transfer students end up being one of 3 transfers in a sea of 18-year-olds, they really get to instead be starting off with their peers. The next category is the career integration category. And so this is where they're going to pick up those 2 additional career integration touch points. For the majority of programs at OSU, these are simply going to be touch points or outcomes that are embedded in existing major courses. We will create a 0 credit course for any programs that choose not to or just not able to embed those career learning outcomes into existing major courses. But Erin and I are anticipating that the majority, if not all, of OSU majors will go ahead and embed those touch points right within existing major courses. Then students are going to deepen their understanding of difference, power, and oppression. And this is also going to be a major specific course. So that affords students to be able to really connect the dots with these concepts with their specific major and career focus. So they're being able to deepen their understanding within their chosen field. Next is my favorite, Seeking Solutions, are courses that are team taught by 2 or more faculty members in different disciplines, ideally in different colleges. And the faculty are going to be bringing to students who will be working in smaller collaborative groups, they're going to be bringing them the world's hairiest problems. So this is really where our faculty can leverage their research in specific areas that OSU is more known for. So thinking of climate science, global health, robotics, AI, a lot of the fields that as a global society, we have lots of questions, concerns, and problems with. So bringing those problems to the students to grapple with in that collaborative setting. And this really helps speak to one of the major pieces of feedback that colleges and universities often get from business and industry, that they really want to see our graduates be able to work in small, diverse, collaborative teams to solve problems on the job. Then we round out with a couple of writing courses. So you may be familiar with Writing Intensive Curriculum, or WIC. This is something we currently have in the baccalaureate core. And so this is where students learn to write in their specific discipline and major. And what our faculty were finding with the back core, that when students are taking those Writing 1 and Writing 2 courses early in their academic career, often in their first couple of terms, by the time they got to their WIC course, they weren't quite prepared to write successfully within that discipline. And so the faculty wanted to put in a bridge course at the upper division. This is the writing elevation, and this won't be a major specific course, but it'll still have some specific focus. So a good example is many of our majors will likely choose technical writing as their writing elevation course. And Erin's going to talk more about writing in a minute, specifically about technical writing, writing 227Z, but then also writing 122Z. So she's going to dig into some specifics in terms of students transferring their writing to core education. Separate from writing, does anybody have any questions about the signature core?
Can
Haley.
I ask you to repeat a little bit about the transitions category that you mentioned specifically for transfer students, what that looks like?
Yeah. So this is a course that is helping them transition to Oregon State. But for transfer students, instead of taking the 100 level version, they are going to be in a 300 level version only with other transfer students. And they are going to get important refreshers on aspects of student success, but really geared for those students who have already been around the block a bit. They're going to get information that helps them transition specifically to OSU, and resources and other things that they need to know about OSU. They're also going to do some modules focused on health and fitness, with a specific emphasis on mental health. And then they're also going to get their first touch point around career integration. So doing some early career planning.
Yeah, it's essentially providing some of that insider knowledge that first year students get through time at OSU and trying to integrate it into the first term for our transfer students. So it's not just like, how do you student, but how do you take your prior successes and make them work at OSU? So the terminology and technology that we require, and then also creating opportunities for students to connect with each other through that peer and to faculty through a mentorship lens. So a lot of different components that we've heard from our transfer students that are lacking when they start at OSU. We're trying to hit it early on in that first term enrolled.
That sounds really exciting. My wondering there, is there a carve out where TRIO students could go and take that class with OSU TRIO? Maybe Amy DeVille-Bosch's crew could be teaching that class or something like that for TRIO, for that TRIO pipeline.
Yeah, so I literally wrote that question down as we were talking through this. So I know our current TRIO students take a transfer transitions course that transfers coming in the 300 level. So mentally, I'm like, I need to go connect with Amy to figure out what does that look like within this new university requirement. So yeah, absolutely on the same page, Zach. Mm-hmm.
And Ari Career, is that Mihal Kafka's doing at OSU with the career stuff? He was telling me about that. And he's also a former TRIO director. So you just see TRIO everywhere you go.
Yeah, so absolutely. There'll be components in like MECOP for our engineering students that will touch on this. I have no doubt for that. I think about also like our HDFS students, they take internship courses. And so I foresee internship requirements or internship courses embedding some of these career integration outcomes. So the courses that already exist in that hands-on experiential component, I think we'll see more of these embedded outcomes in it.
Yep. But I'm sure Mihal is getting pretty excited about that just because of the degree that the Career Development Center was involved in creating the outcomes for this category and stuff. So yeah, I could see him getting very enthusiastic and sharing about it.
Yeah.
Great. Other questions about Signature Core? Okay, let's talk writing. Go for it, Erin.
Oh, dang it. I did it again. I always do it. I know this is a wall of text, so apologies already. But it literally is a copy and paste from our website. So just verbatim, you'll have access to it as well. So as Kristen was talking about, our faculty were developing core education, and they had the 3 writing requirements that they wanted. They had the foundational writing, they had the writing intensive in the major, and they wanted students to be further along in their educational journey and taking that second writing requirement. And so they situated writing elevation at the upper division level. So that's the core education development. Simultaneously, the little messy Venn diagram occurred with our common course numbering. And so our faculty were coming together across the state to align those 3 writing courses, writing 121, 122, and 227, at the same time that we were developing core education. And so as our faculty got together, writing 121 literally is the one class that we all require across the state. All public institutions require writing 121Z. So of course, this course is going to satisfy both the writing 1 requirement and back core, and it will also satisfy writing foundations in our core education. The next 2 courses are kind of where the tension and that messy little Venn diagram overlaps. And so when the faculty came together to align 122, it was aligned at the 100 level for a variety of reasons. Our faculty came together and they said, yep, it makes sense for it to be a 100 level, but they just couldn't make a 100 level course work for that upper division requirement in core education. So writing 122Z will work for back core, but it will not satisfy writing elevation in core education. Technical writing through this work was aligned at the 200 level. OSU taught this course as an upper division course, a 300 level course for a long time. And so as it aligned at the state level at the 200, they said, yeah, we can make it work. And so there's a little bit of a compromise. Since we offered it at upper division, we aligned it at the 200 level. They said this course is the only course that we can really make work in our writing elevation. So technical writing, although it's not an upper division requirement at OSU, will work for both writing 2 and back core, and also writing elevation and core education. If that course was offered at the 100 level, I think it would be similar enough with the 122 where they just couldn't make a 100 work for the 200 or the 300 level. And so just a quick summary, writing 121 works for both back core and core education. Writing 122 works for back core, but does not work for core education. And technical writing 227Z works for both back core and core education. That's a lot to absorb. I fully understand. So I'm going to add 1 layer because why not? So you might be asking, how do you support students who have completed writing 122Z? Because that is a very valid question. And so our recommendation is Rick DeBellis and his team. And so for students who have taken or plan to complete writing 122Z, we are strongly encouraging them to apply to OSU through the degree partnership program, be admitted to that program no later than spring 2025, because that locks them into the requirements that contain back core. If they start in summer 2025, they are now in the requirements that contain core education, and that course would just come in as an elective requirement. So I'll reiterate that again. Students who have writing 122Z or plan to take it, we recommend being admitted to the degree partnership program no later than spring 2025, so that they are locked into the catalog that contains back core. If they start in summer, they're on the catalog that contains core education. So writing 122Z, while it gives them more writing experience, will just come in as an elective, and they would still have a writing requirement left to complete. That's a lot. And so I'm going to pause and just see, are there any questions or clarification needed in this writing Venn diagram space with core education, back core, and common course numbering? That was the 7 seconds for the introverts. You also are totally fine to process this today and reach out at any point in time afterwards and just verify that you're understanding what we're trying to present here. So don't feel like you have to absorb everything and understand it fully. You can reach out and ask us questions later as well.
I was just going to piggyback and also say for those students who are co-admitted through DPP for the spring 25 term, they don't have to matriculate. They don't have to start at OSU then. So they have 10 terms before they need to actually come and take a class at OSU. So it's a great way to lock in, and then it really gives them choice, because then they can either do the back core when they get here, or they can work with their advisor to update to core ed if that makes more sense. But it's just a great way for them to lock that in. And for trio students, I believe their application fee is waived. And so, except for the time it takes to put that application together, it's a pretty straightforward to make sure to be able to get that choice for when they actually start with us. This slide is just to highlight the credit reduction between back core and core ed. So you notice we're going down from 50 to 57 credits to 42 to 48. And again, that is to free up more elective room to absorb transfer credits that don't count in core ed or the major, or to do undergraduate research, study abroad, those high impact practices that can be really, really helpful for a lot of students and important for their learning. Let's go to the next slide. So this is a map of core education with the core transfer map categories and the AAOT, ASOT categories. Everything in gray is lower division. You can see that the core transfer map fulfills almost everything except for DPO. The AAOT or ASOT does fulfill all lower division. And then the Writing 227Z, excuse me, that can also fulfill writing elevation. Core transfer map students, we hope they continue and do a degree with you as well, in which case they could absolutely pick up a DPO Foundations course and Writing 227 on their way to whichever degree makes the most sense for the major they want to study at OSU. I think that's it. Yeah, so Erin's going to talk a little bit about how we've been implementing.
So as I mentioned, we had the curriculum approved back in 2022. Our faculty came together to develop the learning outcomes criteria rationale for each of the categories. And then since then, they've been really hard at work developing and redesigning courses to map into the core education curriculum. All of our curriculum has to be approved no later than March 1st, because that is, around the time that it goes live. Our students register mid-April. And so they are rapidly trying to get things into the system, get it approved, and get it accessible for our students to see and make sure they have choice when they take classes. I'm going to go into the weeds briefly, and then I'll explain why I go into the weeds. So our curriculum, the way that faculty identify the courses they want to submit to core education or design into it, is they work with their leadership in the college to submit a statement of intent saying, I want to put this course into core education. That then allows the faculty to attend the CADI, the Course Adaptation and Design Institute, where they align the course outcomes to meet the category outcomes for core education categories. Once they go through that process, they then submit their course into the curriculum proposal system. We call it CIM. It goes through a very intense vetting process. I believe there's 16, 18 steps of vetting for it to be finally approved. And once it's approved, it has then become available for students to register. The way that you can understand a little bit on how transfer courses satisfy the different gen ed programs is based on course attributes. And so asterisk contains attributes for back core. The plus sign is for core education. And if it contains both, then it is a part of both. And so that allows us to be able to teach out, we have to teach out back core for the next 10 years. And so some of the courses that go through this redesign process to align into core ed will kind of contain this legacy attribute status for back core categories. We don't want to be 2-3 years down the road and there to be 1, maybe 2 courses per category for students completing back core. We want our students to have choice. We want our students to still have that breadth and depth of knowledge available to them. And so there are going to be courses that contain attributes for both gen ed programs. So you might be saying, wow, that's great, Erin. Why do we have to know all this detail? And so I will show you. If you go to the coreeducation.oregonstate.edu website and you go, oh no, wait, let's see if I can get it to work. There it goes. Maybe. Oh, it's not, my video won't play. The video will play eventually, and you'll have access to this afterwards. So if you go, it'll be on the policies and processes tab. You can see my little cursor right here. It'll take you down to a dashboard. There'll be a dashboard that you can select, and within that dashboard, you'll be able to see all of the different courses that have been submitted to each category. And so there'll be one course for writing foundations, writing 121Z. It's the only course that's going to be a part of that. But for the other categories, there's going to be a list of courses. And within those list of courses, it'll tell you the date that, if it's been submitted through the statement of intent, that's how it kind of populates. There'll be a column with a date that associated with the date that it was submitted to Kim, and a date if it had been approved in our curriculum proposal system. So it gives you real-time information on what courses are being proposed or what courses are being identified to be proposed. And so it just gives you a better idea of where we're landing with what core education will contain. So really exciting stuff there. It's publicly available. You'll have link and access to this. I'll share the PowerPoint slides with Robin, so she'll be able to share it out as well. But it just gives you a really pretty complete idea. So our faculty, the last time that they can go through the redesign process is in September. And so by the end of summer, we have a pretty complete idea of what courses will be in core education.
Erin, if you want to stop sharing your screen for a second, I'll share mine and be your video.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah. Here we go. Tell me what to do.
Go to policies and processes. Go
Whoops.
to your dashboard. Oh, yep, just a little drop down. You can just hover. Dashboard. 2 more down. There you go. And then scroll down and you'll be able to click on any of these accordions. So there you can see writing 121Z is the only course in there. If you go to quantitative literacy, the next one down, you can see there's more courses. On the right-hand column, you can see the date that have been submitted, if they've been approved. I'll put out the caveat here as well that these are ordered based on statement of intent rather than alphabetically. So if you go to arts and humanities, it is a scattershot of organizational structure and it bothers me to no end. So just be fair warned when you go into that. So you can understand it's just based on when some courses were submitted. So it really does give you that real-time information of where they are in the process. And like I mentioned, this is publicly available, so you can go in and just see where our faculty are landing and what courses they're thinking of including in it. Awesome. Thanks, Kristen.
Sure thing.
Here we go.
Okay. So just going to share a little bit more about transferring to OSU and maximizing transfer credit. So the first thing I wanted to walk through with you all is the process that we've gone through to evaluate community college courses, and actually way beyond that as well. Lots of courses in our transfer tables for core education. And we've got a brand new team in the Office of the Registrar that they we formed the team last summer, and they've been working on core education ever since. So the first question they ask themselves when looking at a transfer course is it a direct articulation to an OSU course? Are we assigning it an OSU course number? And if the answer is yes, then that transfer course gets the same attributes, the same category attributes within core ed that the OSU course does. And that's trumps all. And so that would be the end of that assessment. If the answer is no, then they're going to go to the sending school. If it's an Oregon Community College, they're going to say, is this course on one of the CTM, AAOT, or ASOT distribution lists? Does it meet one of those category outcomes? If the answer is yes, they're going to do their best to just map category to category for the ease of transfer. They have to be careful about those 4 kind of caveats that we went through in the foundational core. So if it is on the math approved list, but it's a discipline specific statistics course, or if it is on the science list, but it is a computer science course, they won't be able to make those happen. Those are guarantees that come with completing the full CTM, but wherever they can, they're just going to map category by category to give it the core ed attribute that matches that category. If it's not in any of those statewide programs, they're going to say, well, is it gen ed in any way at the sending institution? This question might be a bigger question if it's not at the community college or it's outside Oregon. But if it is gen ed in any way, then they are going to go ahead and evaluate that course against the core education's category outcomes. Each of our core ed categories has 3 learning outcomes. So they're broad. There's not, 10 to 15 learning outcomes that have to be assessed. Except for transitions, which has 4, but we're not thinking there's going to really be any transfer into transitions because it's so OSU specific. So, and then if it is not gen ed at the sending institution, it won't be core education at OSU. So that's kind of the decision tree they're working through that I wanted to make sure you all were just aware of that very, very broad process. If we go to the next slide, we're really just going to be reiterating some of our mantras for maximizing. So we've been asking the community college registrars to make it easy for students to earn the core transfer map, and suggesting advisors advise undecided students towards those CTM, AAOT, ASOT courses. We're also asking the community college registrars to come together and determine a standardized notation for the core transfer map. And then OSU and other registrars are offering to help with any technical barriers or logistics to getting that auto-notated. So not expecting a student to fill out a form to have the core transfer map notated, but really kind of in real time when they complete that 8th requirement, getting a notation on that the 4 years can consume. For students who wish to earn a degree, we really hope they do because that really behooves them at the community college and it behooves them at when they get to us at OSU. So if they wish to earn a degree, working with Rick and the transfer admissions managers to determine which degree makes the most sense for what they want to study at OSU. So we all know that if somebody wants to study engineering at OSU, the AAOT is probably not the best degree for them because they will end up having, more credits to complete when they get to OSU than they would if they would have perhaps chosen a different degree where they could fit in some of those lower division engineering requirements. And there's other majors that are maybe not as drastic or dramatic as engineering in terms of pre-planning, but it's still, Rick is here to help meet with your students to help them choose the best degree and then the courses within each degree that will maximize the transferability when they come to OSU. And then again, just continue advising students right now into the baccalaureate core requirements. That is still our current general education program, but we strongly recommend probably around January starting to get a DPP admission application in so they could be admitted for spring 25, and then they just have those more than 2 years before they need to show up at OSU, and then they'll be able to choose between the back core or the core ed. But if they're moving through and finishing back core requirements, they will be set up to be able to use that curriculum when they get here. And then how to support students interested in transferring to OSU. We're going to walk through, we've got an external web page that you all can take a look at on that coreeducation.oregonstate.edu website that has some great information that you can either pass on to students or information for yourselves on how to support students. We've also got all of our transfer admissions teams. So Rick and his crew who meet with your students to help them figure out the best degrees and courses to take. And then we also have online tools at the Transfer Credit Central website. So there's information about transfer admissions, There are articulation tables. There's an individual course lookup. There are transfer guides. Right now, those are all geared towards baccalaureate core, but our implementation teams will be working this year to get those updated to reflect core education as well. And then really understanding the process for students to apply to DPP. What's next? That's it. Nice. We got 10 minutes for questions if folks have any questions.
I had a question, circling back to the changes in the writing requirements. So moving forward, would you recommend, like, should we be guiding our students maybe to take writing 227 after they finish the 121? Would that be a good strategy?
Yeah, I would say yes, for now, absolutely do that. As our programs over the next couple of months really understand what classes are available, Kristen said there might be some content for writing elevation that is more discipline geared. So a better course than technical writing to support students that are going into like media storytelling, for instance. And so it would be kind of connected to what programs do they want to take at OSU. Many of the programs won't specify which writing elevation course, so absolutely technical writing will satisfy that. So yes, I would say first figure out their major or their idea of a major. And then from there, technical writing absolutely is a viable option for students to take that will satisfy that requirement for both back core and core education.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go ahead and throw one thing out here. With our transfer admission team, we are available to come out and do presentations with your students. We're more than happy to do application workshops. The application is going to be due early March for that spring term. So if they're looking at applying for spring term, they'll want to have their application submitted and completed prior to, I believe it's March 3rd. I'm not guaranteed on that, but we definitely want students that they're thinking about going that route. We can walk through that process with students. The application for transfer students takes about 20 minutes to complete. It's much easier than the first year application.
We totally recognize that we overwhelmed you with so much information. And so you will have access to this recording. We'll share out the slides as well with all the appropriate links. I'll share them to Robin and then Robin can share it out with everyone. But don't hesitate to reach out. Kristen and I are happy to engage in conversations, but Rick and his team are probably going to be the best ones because they really understand the connection for their affiliated community colleges to OSU. But any one of us, tap our shoulders, answer or ask whatever questions or clarifications. We really want to make sure that this is just one step in the process of supporting our students. And so as things pop up or I don't quite know, don't hesitate. Let us know what's going on so that we can support and make sure that our students are successful in whatever it is that they choose, if that's OSU.
Thank you so much. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm excited about all this. This is great. And I'm sure our advisors really appreciate all this deep dive that you've done. As far as articulation agreements go with all these different community colleges, is that part of this rollout to update articulation agreements, or is that something separate?
It's a little separate. So OSU doesn't do any institutional articulation agreements. So they're typically kind of program to program or like major to major. And so all of our programs at OSU, they do need to update their programs to accommodate core ed. They have to pick, which writing elevation course do they want students to take, and where are they embedding those career outcomes, and which DPO, the accelerated or the advanced, course they need to take. So they're going to be going through, and the hope and expectation is that they will be working with community college partners where they have those program to program articulations. But also on a kind of related but separate note is our transfer guides. So right now we have transfer guides on the Transfer Credit Central website, and those are major specific courses that students would take in a specific major to transfer to OSU. Right now, they all reflect that core, but as fast as we can get them updated next summer, they will be reflecting core education. So that's another piece that will get updated still by the colleges, but we will be cheering them on and trying to offer support and tools to help them do that quickly.
One thing just to touch on articulation agreements. OSU a long time ago made the decision not to do really program articulations. So what they'll do is if a school is looking to have an agreement, they'll do a transfer guide that will kind of walk through these are the courses. What we found is that with articulation agreements, people are gung-ho about them for usually the first year and a half. And then people change positions, people fade away. And then the student shows up 7 years later saying, hey, I did this. Why aren't my credits counting the way it's supposed to? So that's why we've gone to the course-to-course articulation versus program-to-program. But we do, if you need support in, let's say you're creating a new program and you're looking for coursework support, our articulation team is there to kind of work with you on getting the courses articulated correctly, making sure the courses match up to courses that we have and that we're supportive of that. And building of that transfer guide with the academic college so that that student has an idea of what they need.
Wonderful, thank you. Any final questions for our OSU partners here? Okay, well, thank you so much for joining today, and thank you to our three presenters. Thank you so much for sharing this great information, and I'll be sure to get all this information out to everyone in the state as soon as we can. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks y'all. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.